Today I want to talk about quite possibly the deepest position in this entire NFL draft, the cornerback position. There is so much talent this season that there will definitely be a run at the position, and you will still find a lot of talent left on day 2 and day 3. Corner is one of the hardest positions to grade in college. Great corners usually don't get targeted often in the NCAA. Teams will avoid throwing their way, so they aren't tested much on tape. For me, I look for traits: speed, burst, back pedal, footwork, fluid hips, ability to mirror routes, and understand coverages. You also need corners that can come up, play the run, and be sure tacklers. I will say my favorite corner of all time was an awful tackler. That was Deion Sanders. But my second favorite corner of all time was Charles Tillman, and he's the man who brought the peanut punch to Chicago. In today's NFL, you need to be able to help out in the run game. It's very important for corners. All that being said, I believe this is one of the most talented corner classes in the last decade or longer. Ryan Poles should be able to find a corner he really likes at some point in this NFL draft. Today I'm giving you my top 15 cornerbacks in this draft class and some honorable mentions after that because the position is quite simply too deep. I watched a ton of tape for this one. Let's get right into it. The number one corner in this draft class for me is easily Devin Witherspoon from Illinois. He's so much fun to watch on tape. He's fiery, feisty, and he's a hungry player that'll upgrade any secondary in the entire league. He's an incredibly fluid athlete with awesome speed. He's aggressive without being handsy or grabby. He has everything you want in a corner prospect other than elite height and length. At number 2, I have Joey Porter Jr., son of Steelers Hall of Famer, a 5-star recruit. He has a thicker build and better size than Witherspoon. He's an elite athlete with a long and lengthy frame that the Chicago Bears prefer. He's way more grabby in coverage than Witherspoon though, and he'll get flagged for that in the NFL. He also doesn't have the versatility to play nickel. I love Porter's game. He's a first-round prospect to me, but Witherspoon is the clear top guy. And then rounding out the trio of the top 3 corners in the league is Christian Gonzalez. He has the size and athleticism that Poles could fall in love with, but his lack of bulk and presence in the run game put him behind Porter and Witherspoon to me. The top 3 corners still stand out in a tier of their own. Gonzalez has a lot to love about his game with a ton of upside. Coming in at number 4 is Emmanuel Forbes. He's the smallest guy on the list, but he's a pure playmaker who had 7 interceptions returned for touchdowns. He is a pick-6 machine who needs to bulk up at the NFL level. He's 6 foot tall and 166 pounds. His frame is a concern. I don't know where I'd draft him, but I love his game. Next up is a guy with incredible upside, DJ Turner from Michigan. He ran the fastest 40 time of anyone at the combine, but people sleep on his tape. He has great technique, footwork, and extremely fluid hips. He's a guy who could get drafted higher than people think and could be a star in the NFL. At number 6, I have Deonte Banks from Maryland. Really good player. I'm a bit lower on him than most, but it's not that I dislike his game. I'm just not quite as high on him as some others. He's a bit of a tweener between a nickel or safety prospect, kind of a jack of all trades. He's a little too grabby as well and needs to trust his technique more and continue working on his craft. He's a very good player. Keely Ringo from Georgia comes in at number 7. He's a freak athlete with perfect size. He was a 5-star recruit who has relied on his natural gifts a bit too much. His technique needs a lot of refinement, but he has as much potential as any other corner in this class. He shouldn't be a day 1 starter though, due to how much work he needs on this technique. If he gets overdrafted, he could end up being a bust. And then at number 8, I have Darius Rush from South Carolina. I love this dude's game. He has blazing speed and fluid hips to run with any receiver. He had the fastest recorded time at the Senior Bowl. He looks like a day 1 starter to me, who is just solid all around. Same for the guy at number 9, Julius Brents, who's also incredibly athletic with fluid hips and great speed. He has awesome size and length, coming in at nearly 6'3" and 200 pounds with 34-inch arms. His play is more inconsistent than the guys above him on the list though, and he lacks ball skills, which limits his upside. But he's another guy I really like who was awesome at the Senior Bowl. Rounding out my top 10 is Cam Smith, South Carolina's other corner. He has nice height, arm length, and athleticism and could be overdrafted. He's a great cover guy, but he has a very thin frame, and his tackling is extremely inconsistent and a worry at the next level for me. Tyreek Stevenson from the U in Miami comes in at number 11. He's a yoked up, 6 foot, 200 pound, impressive specimen of an athlete. He's a long, lengthy corner with the speed and athleticism to be a starter in the NFL. He's had various injuries and was too grabby at times in college. He has a lot of upside, but he needs to improve in several areas if he wants to reach his ceiling. Then at number 12, we get to Jacorian Bennett from Maryland. He impressed in the pre-draft process, and his ball skills stood out. He's undersized and needs to add strength and become a better tackler. Then at number 13, I have Riley Moss out of Iowa. He has nice size, speed, and athleticism with awesome coverage skills. He's sticky in man-to-man coverage and has awesome ball skills. He had 11 career interceptions. His concerns are lack of strength, arm length, and he's had some injury concerns, but Riley Moss is another guy I really like. Coming in at number 14 is another Senior Bowl standout, Caillou Blue Kelly from Stanford. He had an awesome week and was voted the national team's Cornerback Practice Player of the Week. His biggest concern is his acceleration and burst. He looked great at the Senior Bowl, but he's looked a bit slow at times on tape. And then finally at number 15, I have Louisville's corner Kytrell Clark, a perfect nickel corner. Speaking of guys who had great off seasons though, he was one of the biggest standouts at the Shrine Bowl. And even though I feel there are a couple of players who may deserve to be ranked in the top 15, this class is just so deep. I love what I saw from Clark at the Shrine Bowl, and he earned my number 15 spot. I want to briefly run through a couple of honorable mentions as well, as there are just way more than 15 corners I like and looked at for this video. Others include Cameron Mitchell, Corey Trice Jr., Garrett Williams, Terrell Smith, Tre'Davious Hodges-Tomlinson, Starlin Thomas, Mekhi Blackman, Mekhi Gardner, Jalen Jones, and even more. There are a lot of guys outside of the top 15 who could end up being starters in the NFL. Garrett Williams from Syracuse finished outside of my top 15 due to recovering from a torn ACL, but he's very talented and probably deserves a spot on the list. This corner class is just really deep, with talented players who should stick in the NFL littered throughout this draft class. If it wasn't for the insane depth at defensive end, then corner would be the deepest position in this entire draft. It's very close. Teams looking for help at defensive end or cornerback are in luck, because this year's draft has you covered. Both positions are uniquely deep. I wanted to get my corner rankings out to you guys before the draft. Enjoy. With a lot of these, they are so close, it's really hard to differentiate between them in the rankings, and I'm indecisive. Let me know what you guys think. Stay tuned. I have much more on the way. Remember to hit that like button for me. And until next time, bear down.